Let's start the conversation around the present installation. The exhibition came out of Miami. It was a certain kind of installation there. It's a very different kind of installation here. Talk to us about what happens at each venue, what you struggle with, are elated by, are challenged by. What are the issues that come up for an artist who is very hands-on about doing his installation and about seeing his works in different architectural spaces?
Every time it's a kind of surprise. You don't know pretty much what you're going to get. Even sometimes you know the spaces, but sometimes the pieces has not been seeing each other for so long. You do a lot of choices based on, you know, on which works are the good works and the relevant works, but still those works might create some situations that you might not be able to control at all, unless once you're on the space. For instance, in Miami, we ended up having a very chronological and somehow traditional way of hanging. Here at the Albright-Knox, there was no way to do it chronologically. First, because the space is in a way is more dynamic. There's no an evident path, so you could go pretty much anywhere. But on the other hand, it's because we try something different. Since many of my work has very evident subjects like theaters, maps, house plans, and so on. There was a way to organize the rooms by subject, but still, there's always good to break that grouping. It's always good to have something that will put that subject in dialogue with something else rather than to
isolate them as what they are. So for instance, Everything, very large painting, was placed in the context of theaters.
That's
correct. Very interesting. Now, there were reasons for that, and maybe we should talk about.
I think the main reason is because it looks really great. But I could go deeper to that. I always thought on Everything, the painting, as some kind of curtain, some kind of stage curtain.
Because of its size and breadth?
The size, the magnificence, the folds, yeah, that makes sense, the folding.
Mm-hmm.
And also because it's 4 parts, so in a way there is a rhythmical repetition of things that comes and goes, so there's a fluidity of that. At the time when I did Everything, I didn't have in mind at all to working on curtains. Many years later, I was working on a curtain for the Dallas Opera, and now I'm working on another curtain for the Teatro Colón in Buenos Aires. But it wasn't really my intention then. But since now I had that in mind, I think the idea to place Everything amid the theaters, it brings a totally different perspective, and it brings that idea of the curtains to the work. It just simply seems to be the right place for that painting to be.
Mm-hmm. There was a lot of movement in the course of the installation, and I have to say I learned a great deal from you in watching you deal with your works and in moving things around. And there's this very empirical process that you go through where you'll see something in one place, you'll see it in another place, you'll go back to the same place, but it's already changed in your mind, and there may be another work next to it which changes the dynamic. So there's this very interesting flux to that process, but at a certain point it settles itself.
It does. Somehow I thought that the way we planned this show, we were pretty much sure about the pieces. You know, we had very good reasons to have the pieces we have in the show. We went carefully we choose carefully each work. And even though we worked so hard in picking the pieces and making connections, it seems like every time we'll be installing the show, it will be a different and challenging situation.
Absolutely. What is the studio for you? What is it? I mean, I've always thought of the studio as a kind of analog to the, kind of an equivalent to the inside of an artist's brain, you know, that it's a place where you go to think and to perform and to create. But what is it exactly for you, would you say?
I would agree with you. Well, pretty much all those things. Today my studio has where I could do a lot of things, like going through books. I have a big piano, which is a project always postponed. The piano is completely out of tune. Probably one day I will learn piano rather than. On the other hand, it's became like a huge table to draw. It's pretty ergonomic, so it fits very well in my body, so I could draw easily on top of that. I don't paint because I think the wood is still has some protection. Try to describe a little bit what's going on in my studio, and then from there try to see how that reflects my mind. I work in several works at the same time. Let's say several doesn't mean 8 works. Several means 3, 2, 3, 4 at most. So that also will reflect that my mind is dispersed, but not totally dispersed, so I can get some focus. As I know myself lately, I think I have very short periods of concentration but very intense. So even if there's a lot of things going around, my dog, people, I don't work with many assistants, I have only 2 assistants, and eventually there's only one person with me in my studio. I think what the studio says about me is just that I keep a sort of a floating attention on things. And also that I try to give to the works, how should I say that, a sort of open dialogue, meaning that I don't know what I'm going to get from the work that I'm doing. So I have to be prepared to hear something that was a little bit unexpected. There's another element in the studio what I think probably I could refer briefly is that I have one table, circular table in my studio, which I normally cover with a rejected piece, a canvas that doesn't go anywhere. Sometimes I tend to give that canvas a sort of a second chance and then staple that canvas around the table. And normally I draw, I make notations, doodlings, any sorts of futile marks on that canvas. Mostly I draw over that canvas. And those became my diaries. I call that suite of words diaries.
There's another part of your studio, though, that's in a little garret-like room that holds your computer. And it is worth talking about that, too, because it bears in on some of the works on paper that you've been making. So it'd be of interest to know, and I've always called them flotation drawings, for lack of